my bad. I forgot to hit go live. We're going to start going over our body paragraphs today. And then we are going to, if we have time at the end, we'll go over like your thesis statement questions. If you guys have questions about your thesis statement, let me know. I did post stuff in the Google Classroom. If you guys need more help with it, if you're confused about it, if you need help on anything, just let me know. Like I said, I did post extra credit work in it, but it's extra credit. You don't have to do it. Okay. I'm also, again, going to be showing you guys another PowerPoint. So we're going to go over the PowerPoint. I'm going to be switching back and forth between the PowerPoint and, oh, wrong thing, our YouTube live stream. So if you guys have any questions, sorry, my dog is going nuts in the background. Winston, quiet, please. Anyway, so I'm going to be going between the live stream and the PowerPoint. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. You guys, this just posted to the Google Classroom for you, I think about like 15 minutes ago. So if you do not see this, you do have it now. But I am going to go ahead and start present mode. Okay. So again, we are going to be working on body paragraphs today. Keep in mind, paragraphs is plural because you guys will have to write 2 body paragraphs. So by the end of today, you guys should be able to support your topic using facts, definitions, details, and examples. All that really means is that you guys are going to be looking at the sources that you picked out and that I gave you feedback for. And you are going to be pulling facts, definitions, details, examples out of those sources and putting them into your paper. One thing to keep in mind, do not just copy and paste things from the website straight into your paper because that is plagiarism. This is your first paper that you're writing, so we're going to learn probably more about plagiarism. But if you guys plagiarize and you go to college, you can actually get suspended, like completely kicked out or expelled, I guess. You can get expelled from your university, and sometimes there can be like charges filed against you for plagiarism. So please do not plagiarize. I'm going to show you a couple examples of how I kind of changed the wording of some of the stuff that I wrote, and I'm going to show you how I wrote my body paragraphs. So again, please don't worry, we will go over it. So there are 3 main parts to a body paragraph. And you guys will see I like color coded each part. That'll make more sense in a second when I start showing you our example. So you need your topic sentence. Your topic sentence will transition from your previous paragraph to your new paragraph while introducing a new topic. The goal is for the transition to be smooth. It should be 1 sentence in length. So again, your topic paragraph your topic sentence introduces the information in your next paragraph. It should include a transition, which I have included some transition phrases and words on the following slide. I'll show you guys in a second. And your topic sentence is usually just 1 sentence. Details. You should write 2 to 4 details that support the topic of your topic sentence. Remember, your details should also make sense with your thesis. It can be anywhere from 2 to 4 sentences. Okay, so the detail part has a little bit more to it. So remember, as you write, you need to keep your thesis statement and your topic in the back of your mind. Otherwise, your writing won't make any sense. So again, that's why it says should also make sense with your thesis. I'm going to show you guys a trick that I use when I start showing you my example. But I always write my thesis statement at the top of my paper while I'm writing, or at the top of the page, so I can constantly look at it and make sure that I'm staying on track with where I want to be. Again, I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. And then your transition sentence. This sentence should summarize what you just wrote and how it relates to what you will be writing about in your next paragraph. So the transition sentence is kind of similar to the topic sentence, but it kind of wraps everything up. It still uses transition words, though. This sentence is also just 1 sentence in length. And again, use transition words. So I'm going to jump back over to our live stream. Hello, everyone. We got Dakota, James, Lucas, Dakota again, and David. Okay. if you guys have questions, again, remember to put them in the chat box, and I will answer them as I flip back and forth. So if I don't answer them right away, please don't stress. Okay, moving back over here. Really quick, these are just a list of transition words or common transition words. Likewise, especially, similarly, in addition, despite, however, in other words, thus, eventually, finally, nevertheless, meanwhile, next, during, at last, between, for that reason, consequently, most importantly, on the other hand, accordingly. Usually you will use these at the beginning of a sentence. So you could say, at last, and you normally put a comma, I won the race, or something like that. Or you could put a transition, I'm trying to make up a sentence as I go. So if you're trying to also put, you could do, in addition, comma, I am good at math. Not really, but that's just an example. To keep in mind when you guys are using transition words, if you want to use, if you want to use finally should never be used until you're making your last point, because finally kind of ends or is an ending. In other words, is kind of another way to use like a different definition or kind of give a different definition of what you're talking about. You can always use next should not be used first and next should not be used last, but next can always be used somewhere in the middle. Just keep in mind that these transition words make sense with the sentence that you are writing, because sometimes your whole paper can be ruined by using the wrong transition word because it doesn't make sense. All right, moving out of that slide, we're going to pop back over here for a second. We're all good? No questions? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to actually type on this slide as we go. So I'm going to be typing out my body paragraph for you guys. Again, I'm also in the sample Google Classroom, so keep that in mind as we work. My Google Classroom will not look the exact same as yours. Here's my introduction paragraph. I'm going to click on my introduction paragraph. So I'm going to, actually, I'm just going to copy and paste my thesis, because my thesis is all I need. So either you can hit Control-C, or you can, just unhighlighted it, or you can right-click and hit Copy, and then I have to go back to where I wanted to go. So I'm going to go back to the body paragraphs assignment. Just so you guys know, I don't think this assignment opens up until Wednesday morning for you guys, because I don't want you to start on it until you turn in your thesis statement. We're kind of ahead in the videos, the live stream videos, and that's totally fine. Alright, so you guys know to make sure you're on the right thing. This up here will say your student name and then body paragraphs, because that is what the assignment is called. So there is my thesis statement. I'm going to get rid of the highlight because I don't need it. And I'm not going to make it bold either. So looking at my thesis statement, Toni Morrison pieced together the broken parts of her childhood to create a place for fictional African-American women and real African-American women like herself. I fixed this in my other slide, but not on this one. Alright, so going back down here. So remember, one of the first things to do when you are starting your body paragraph is to indent. So you're just going to hit the tab button. I'm going to jump over here again. Still no questions. Sounds good. Okay. So then what you're going to do is like I just did, like to reread my thesis statement out loud to myself. I want to make sure it still makes sense to me, that it's still the thesis statement I want to go with. And then I kind of cheated. I already wrote down my thesis statement, or not my thesis statement, my body paragraphs on a separate piece of paper. You guys don't have to do that. I just did it so I could kind of tweak things and make this go by a little faster. So how I broke up my thesis statement was into two parts. I'm specifically going to focus on Toni Morrison's childhood, and then how she made African American visible in the current world. So I'm going to start with, let's go open my bookmarks. We'll go to this one. That's not the one I wanted. Okay, we're going to go to this one. This is what I wanted. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the other one I had, which is this one. Okay, so these are my two sources that I chose to focus on. I do have a third one that I might use later, but I didn't really pull a lot from it while I was writing my body paragraphs. So I'm going to switch back over. Actually, we're going to stay on this one for a second. So talking about her childhood, obviously start at like birth and family history if you find a website that has such a title. So Toni Morrison was born Chloe Anthony Wofford in Lorain, Ohio on February 18th, 1931. Fun fact, Lorain County is it borders Cuyahoga County, so it's like northwest of you guys in Akron. Okay, so moving over to my body paragraph. So I want to include something about her childhood. So I'm going to put on February 18th, 1931, Chloe Anthony Wofford, best known as Toni Morrison, was born in the middle of the Great Depression. Okay. So again, if you look back here on February 18th, Chloe Anthony Wofford, best known as Toni Morrison, was born in the middle of the Great Depression. So we are not going to subscribe to that, but we are going to go back to the page I was just on, and it has basically the same information right here. Toni Morrison was born Chloe Anthony Wofford in Lorain, Ohio on February 18th, 1931. So you guys see how I give you the same information, but it is reworded slightly in my first example sentence. Let me pop back to see if you guys have questions. Dakota, what did I do that was illegal? And hello, Dimitri. Okay, so I'm going to keep going while I wait for Dakota to answer. So Morrison's family had a rough start before the Great Depression. Okay, fix this because I'm making typing errors, trying to read and type. So Morrison's family had a rough start before the Great Depression. This is not your transition sentence, but it does kind of transition into the information I'm about to give you. So if we go back to this one, it talks about her mother's parents left Greenville, Alabama around 1910 after they lost their farm because of debts they could not repay. So I'm going to go back here and give you her maternal. Maternal means your mother's parents. Keep that in mind. Her maternal grandparents to Ohio in 1910 after losing their farm because of debts they could not repay. So again, you see how I'm using the information that was found in here, but it's not the exact same phrasing. So going back here, what was another struggle she had? If you go back into this, you'll see that, where was it? Morrison's father's family. So they struggled with something as well. So I'm going to put Morrison's paternal grandparents also fled the South to escape the discrimination many African Americans faced. Okay, so they faced. So this kind of shows that on both sides of our family, they did not start on a solid foundation. They both kind of had a rocky start, but still focusing on her childhood. So poverty and discrimination followed Morrison. So this sentence right here, poverty and discrimination followed Morrison, kind of ties together what I just wrote about her grandparents and then what I'm going to write about her next. So then if we go to this one, I have to scroll down a little bit. When Morrison was 2 years old, the owner of her family's apartment building set their home on fire while they were inside because they were unable to afford rent. Doesn't necessarily make sense to me to set something on fire that you own, but still an important part of Toni Morrison's life. So then my following sentence is, when she was just 2 years old, her apartment was set on fire because her family could not come up with rent. So again, that also shows how her childhood was broken. It wasn't a great childhood because her house got caught on fire. Like, that's not great for anyone. So then, despite their hardships, Morrison's family always made time for storytelling. And then you will see this when you go back over to this one. If you go to, let's go down a little. Folklore, music, and history. It says, Morrison's childhood was filled with African American folklore, music, rituals, and myths. Her family was also, as Morrison says, intimate with supernatural and frequently used visions and signs to predict their future. Storytelling was an important part of her life, or important part of life in the Wofford family, and both the children and adults would share stories with one another. So I'm kind of tying in the fact that storytelling was important to her childhood. That was kind of the more normal part of her childhood. But then I have to think about my thesis and how I'm going to move into the second part of my thesis, which is making a place in literature for African American women like herself. So I came up with, let me find it. Morrison combined her love for writing and storytelling to tell the struggles of African American women during her lifetime. So I also pulled the fact that she has a love for writing. If you go, I have to find it. Okay, good. So Morrison sees her writing functioning much like storytelling did in the past. And then I think in this one it also talks about her writing somewhere. I can't find it as quickly as I want to. But I'm going to pop back over for questions. Oh, Dakota, I didn't plagiarize. Plagiarism would be if I literally just copied and pasted the sentence from the website over to my paper. Sometimes you will have sentences that sound very similar, but as long as it usually is not word for word, you are fine. You just kind of want to pull pieces and parts and keep the main idea of what you were just writing. Okay, so then I'm going to the wrong slide. I have my first paragraph typed, so I'm going to hit enter to start my new paragraph, and then tab over to start my next paragraph, which I wrote on a separate piece of paper. So now if I scroll back up to my thesis, I have to talk about how she created a place for fictional African American women and real African American women like herself in our current world. So again, remember, I need to start off with a transition. So in 1949, Morrison went to a historically black college, Howard University, where she realized racism was still very much alive. So despite Toni Morrison wanting to find people that were like her, she still found racism. I pulled this from, here we go. In 1949, Morrison decided to attend a historically black institution for her college education. She moved to Washington, D.C. to attend Howard University. So that kind of goes along with what I just wrote here. So then I have to support that though. Like what did she do with this realization that racism was alive? In 1970, Morrison published her first novel, The Bluest Eye. Let's put a sentence there, or a period there. The novel is about an African American girl that wishes she had blue eyes so she could fit the ideal image of beauty. So this is a part that I read about in I think it was this article, that when she was growing up, she often felt that she wasn't beautiful because she didn't fit the like white standard of beauty because she was an African American woman. So she, go back up to my thesis statement. She talks about how she made a place for women like herself. It's not uncommon for people, even you guys, to feel like you don't meet like the beauty standards that you guys are supposed to. So that's just one way that she kind of made these characters and these experiences real for people like herself. So my next sentence, in 1987, Morrison published Beloved, which is what I'm reading now, a novel, where was I? About life after slavery. So you have to remember, Toni Morrison was born in 1931. Yeah, 1931. So she, very much part of her storytelling process was probably about slavery and how it affected her family. So let's see. Morrison thought back to, where was I? Thought back to her own broken childhood and family stories with similar experience. Oh, I skipped the whole line. Family stories, and brought them to life to show others with similar experiences that they were not alone. So again, she wanted to normalize the fact that some people have slavery in their backgrounds, and that this is something that some African American people might not bring up anymore, but it's something that, you know, her childhood was surrounded by. So she wants to educate others on it. So Morrison's writing gave a voice to many African Americans that were never heard. Because a lot of it too is a lot of slaves didn't necessarily have the knowledge or the ability to read and write to create a story on what they experienced or what they went through. So let me pop back over for questions. Dakota, I created those Google slides, so that is my information. I did not plagiarize. Okay, so these are my 2 body paragraphs. If you guys don't write them as quickly as I did, I don't expect you to. Like I said, I think in our video on Friday, I've been writing papers since I was your age. So I've gotten pretty fast at it. Plus, this is a little bit shorter than what you normally have to write in college. So because this is just supposed to be your body paragraphs, you don't need to have your thesis. One thing I recommend doing, though, is rereading your 2 body paragraphs and then looking at your thesis again and making sure that it still makes sense. You can make changes to your thesis statement as often as you need to, as long as you don't change it in your final submission. I also encourage you guys not to change your topic, because then your entire paper changes. Keep the same general thesis statement, but just change bits and pieces. So I didn't necessarily talk about how she created a place for fictional African American women. I mostly just talked about how she created experiences for real African American women to talk about. So I'm going to get rid of this part because I didn't really cover that. So Toni Morrison pieced together the broken parts of her childhood to create a place for real African American women like herself in our current, I'm going to change this to literature, because she did it in stories. She didn't necessarily produce different African American women. So that's just kind of my updated thesis statement. Again, you guys don't have to keep your thesis statement in here if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. So then I, again, recommend going through and reading it one more time to make sure it's what you want, and then you would turn it in. But I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to now color code my paragraphs for you guys so you can see what a topic sentence, detail, and transition sentence would look like. So we're going to go back to this. So my topic sentence, again, should usually be the first sentence in your paragraph. So this introduces Toni Morrison, which is my topic. I'm going to highlight this. Probably won't be the exact shade of green. I don't want to make the font. I did the wrong thing. Hold on. So there. You can see that this is my topic sentence because it matches the color of the topic sentence here. And then my details are all things that support this. So my detailed paragraphs are all of this. So I'm going to highlight this in blue. And then this is my transition sentence. So Morrison combined her love for writing and storytelling to tell the struggles of African American women during her lifetime. Her lifetime is a really broad term, but that does include her adulthood. So we are going to, I think pink was the color I'm supposed to do this in. Oh, I keep doing that. I don't want to change my text color. I want to highlight it. All right, we'll do this. That's not pink. I'm a hot mess. All right, that is pink. So then this way you guys can see that this is your topic sentence. These are your detail or supporting sentences, and then this is your transition sentence. And then the same thing in this one. In 1949, there should be a comma here. Morrison went to a historically black college, Howard University, where she realized racism was still very much alive. So this is kind of her first introduction into her adulthood, which is what we're talking about, is her adulthood. So then in 1970, Morrison published her first novel, The Bluest Eye. These are all details that support my topic sentence because they talk about her experiences as an adult and what she did with them, and how her childhood experiences shaped her adulthood. And then again, we're going to highlight this one in pink because this is my transition sentence. Because the next paragraph we'll be writing is a conclusion, your transition for your last paragraph is a little different, but it should still summarize what you just wrote. So Morrison's writing gave a voice to many African Americans that were never heard. That's true because she talks about her own experiences as an African American child, and then to those that were unfortunately involved with slavery. Then you can see how I color coded everything. You guys do not, when you turn this in, you do not have to color code it. You just need to type. But this gives you an idea of what your paragraph should look like. So I'm going to jump back over, see if we have any questions. Okay, so Dimitri, your thesis statement is your map for your entire paper. So it's kind of like, you're not directly going to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to talk about this. You don't want to do that. That doesn't flow nicely. You want to find a way to write a sentence. I'm going to flip back over to this, where it talks about everything. Your thesis statement kind of maps out what you'll be talking about without specifically saying, first I will cover X, Y, and Z, and then I will move on to this. So Toni Morrison pieced together the broken parts of her childhood, which is part 1. And then part 2 is to create a place for real African American women like herself in our current literature. So this paragraph is kind of all part 1. It talks about her childhood. And then this is part 2, where it talks more about her adulthood and how she created a place for women like herself. So I, really quick, am going to turn this in. Please don't forget to turn your assignments in. And then, turn it in. And then, ta-da, I'm done with my body paragraphs. Okay. So I'm going to jump back over here. Dimitri, if you need more help with your thesis statement, don't stress, because I will give you feedback on it as well when you turn it in tomorrow. It's due tomorrow at midnight. You guys can always turn your stuff in before then. I encourage you to turn your stuff in before then. But yeah, feel free to either email me or just write whatever you think is the best thesis statement, and I will provide you guys feedback with how you can tweak it, how I think you can make it better, what would help it flow a little bit more. I know thesis statement, just because it's a big word, can kind of freak people out. I know it freaked me out when I was in, I think, 7th grade writing my first research paper. But don't worry, I am here to help you guys. But that is all I have for you guys today. I'm going to hang out for another minute, and then I have to go because I think it's Miss Holden that jumps on here for math. But if you guys, again, if you have questions, please let me know. Remember, your thesis statement and introduction paragraph are due tomorrow at midnight. Like I just said, please don't wait till midnight to turn it in. And again, I will be sending out feedback Wednesday morning, and I will also be sending out emails to your parents if you did not turn in your assignment, because a couple of you have done that, and I don't really want anyone to fall behind. But yeah, that is pretty much all I have for you guys. I will see you guys Friday, which is when we will be going over our concluding paragraph. But if you have questions, let me know.